The individual honor came on October 28th, 2002 against Seattle. A lot of people thought Walter Payton's record would never be broken. 11-yard run against Seattle. By the way, Seattle was chirping. I remember watching that game. It ain't going to happen today. I was like, it's happening today. And you break out for an 11-yard run, and that was it. They stopped the game. What was that moment like?
It was a surreal moment. It really was, because, you know, I didn't know what to do or how to respond, because it's in the middle of a football game.
Yeah.
And
still playing.
How do you celebrate yourself in the middle of a football game when it's required that everyone else? But the beautiful thing about it was my teammates, how they all embraced me at the time. Everyone in that organization knew how important that was to me. Michael, of all people, knew how important it was to me, along with James Washington. They both knew before the world even knew what my ultimate goals were, because I set them in 1990. I told Michael one night before we played the Rams what I wanted to do in the game of football. He laughed in my face. James Washington saw my goal sheet before my rookie season in my apartment complex as I was writing down my goals at my kitchen table. And those were the only two that really knew what the mission was for me individually. But I had also many other goals, Super Bowls, not necessarily Hall of Fame, but becoming an All-Pro and leading the league in rushing. I had all these things, team success, all of that stuff was on my goal list. But to get to that point, I knew it was going to take longevity, because Walter did it in 13 years.
Yep.
So I knew I had to play for 13 years to even have a chance. Not just play, 13 solid good years.
Yep.
So when you talk about 11 straight 1,000-yard seasons, I had to put up numbers like that. And that, therefore, I could not make the club if I was in the tub. So I had to be available, had to make myself available. So I had to do all the things mentally to prepare myself, physically to prepare myself for longevity. And I had to do it with all in the team concept. And so it was more about team first and me second. And within it, I knew I had a responsibility of getting, and I wanted to average 125 yards a game. I knew how difficult that is to do. And people are like, oh, that's nothing. Well, let me just tell you what 125 yards per game looks like. Let me just tell you what 100 yards look like. That's 25 yards per quarter.
Right.
It sounds simple, but you may only get 2 or 3 series in a quarter.
Yep.
And I may get the ball 1 or 2 times per series. So it's not as simple as it seems.
No, it's never simple. But one of my favorite things about that day specifically was that Moose was calling the game, and they let him come out of the broadcast booth to go down there. You want to talk about a guy who sort of epitomized what you've been talking about. I mean, Moose got 3 touches a game, but he was going to be that battering ram for you to get that yardage. Yes. What did it mean for you to see him come down and be able to come down from the booth to celebrate that moment with you?
Well, at the time, I didn't even know he was at the game. I didn't even think about who was calling the game. And if I did, I completely forgot. But I didn't even realize that Michael was there until I was on the sideline. But to have him, here's the hard part about that day. That day is not what I envisioned that day to be. I envisioned Troy Aikman handing me that football.
Yeah.
I envisioned Daryl Johnson leading me up through the running lane. I envisioned Michael Irvin on that football field. I envisioned Nate Newton and Tournay and all these guys there, but they were not there, which is a clear sign that times have changed and we all evolve and we all must adapt to the changing of times. But to have them there in the stadium, to witness that moment meant the world, because I could not have gotten to that place without those guys. And I'm quick to tell people, nobody becomes successful by themselves. Yep. Everything that Emmitt Smith was able to accomplish in his entire career was not necessarily due to my might. It was due to a lot of people who had poured so much into me and given me the wisdom that I needed at the time when I needed it the most. And each one of those guys did personally sacrifice a piece of their lives for me.
Well, listen, one of my favorite Emmitt Smith numbers of all time probably doesn't mean as much to you as it does to me, but consistency is key. So your rookie year, you guys missed the playoffs and you rushed for 937 yards.
Yep.
Your last year in the NFL as members of the Arizona Cardinals, you ran for 937 yards. You came in the same way and you went out the same way.
Same way.
And that is freaking money. And I've said this to a lot of people because we have these debates at times. You know, who's the best at this? Who's the best at that? Here's the way I describe Emmitt Smith. To me, he's the best running back I ever saw because the game is three things, right? You can run, you can catch, and you can block.
Yeah.
And you did all three willingly. People forget you almost ended your career on a blitz pickup against the Bears when the Cowboys were having a crappy season on Monday Night Football. They thought you'd broken your neck.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that is the hallmark of a great running back. And if any running back wants to be on the football field to help their football team become successful, you have to learn how to do all three. I have to learn how to do all three. That's what I tell my son EJ right now. I mean, you have to learn how not only run the rock, but you also have to learn how to block. And you also have to learn how to catch. Well, he has 2 of the 3 now. Running and catching he can do. I'm waiting to see Kenny step in there and block and pick up that blitz pickup, knowing what's coming. And that, to me, is a hallmark of an all-around great football player. Longevity is the fourth thing that sits in me. Yep. So, to me, that's where it began. That's where it ended for me.